Oh my gosh, look at all these standards. How will I learn all these in only 180 days? And my teacher has to teach all the students these standards. I wonder how she can do it. I wonder how many tests we will get. Will we have time for questions? I hope my teacher and I will have a chance to get to know each other.
A child's voice in your classroom is one of the most important things. The rhythm of your classroom, it goes by their questions. It tells you what mood your children are in, what the flow is going to be for learning. If you don't know what they're thinking or how they're feeling, you're not going to know how they're going to accept or how they're going to process what you're trying to teach them.
You have the opportunity to get to know your kids, that you hear their voices.
Do I feel like not when there's a time constraint, not when there's a time constraint, and not when there's pressure. The times that you can are limited if you have to do something and have to get to a certain standard or certain point by a certain time because of a certain test. Those moments only happen off the record, after school, interactions, just if you're walking through the school. That's when that happens.
Yes.
But inside the classroom, if you have to get to something by a certain point, then the interactions of getting to know your kids are very limited.
Your enrollment of 25 children, 30 children in a classroom, you cannot have a set mold and have every child act as the same. And you have to make that child believe that their voice is so important that they're actually leading your classroom.
It made me feel like I wasn't learning because they didn't spend enough time on one subject.
Well, there's definitely time constraints because we are very bound by the standards and the curriculum that we have to cover. And every day that time is essential to get to the end goal of that school year.
I feel that we should be more creative in schools and have more time to do art and be ourselves and everything like that.
Sometimes when the kids want to discuss a topic more than I've given time in my lesson plans, it's hard to give them that time to discuss it. You're like, okay, we need to move on.
That's hard. Sometimes it really depends on what we're doing. If we're already engaged, or if I'm already engaged in a lesson or a PowerPoint presentation or something, I say it's really difficult to stop and try to answer every question because time is always there.
So if you go at a slower pace, then you won't get to teaching those kids those standards, and your kids will miss those questions. So in class, when they ask questions, you kind of feel like you have to address it and move on, and if they have a lot of questions, you kind of have to tell them, okay, we'll save those for later.
I've taught 23 years. We certainly had a lot more freedom, and especially I teach second grade, so 7- and 8-year-olds, there was time to develop curriculum more suited to their interests. So if there was a large group of kids that were really interested in a certain subject, we could go down that path and spend a lot more time on that. So definitely that option has been taken away.
Get to have more time with the teachers.
You get to that point where you don't have the time, then your structure has to change.
Last week, my art teacher, the boy sitting next to me, Xavier, he asked the teacher a question, and she said that she was going to give him a demerit if he asked another question.
To a certain degree, younger kids have a hard time formulating questions, so a lot of our teaching strategy is teaching them how to ask a question, not share an experience to get to the point. I'm always alert and aware that we don't have time to get sidetracked with a lot of stories.
She would just say, well, look in the book, or that's not a good question.
Not only do you have to hear the child's voice, you have to let that child know that you understand the questions that they're asking. You must have that if you want a classroom to work in a way where someone's going to be learning something.
When I didn't really ask that much questions, because I felt like it was going to be like, wow, you don't even know that already? You already went through it. She wouldn't like us when we asked questions. It's like we took up too much of her time, which I think questions are better. I would rather, if I was a teacher, I would rather my kids ask so many questions than just sit there thinking about a question, not telling the teacher. I felt like she couldn't hear me, like there was some kind of pots and pans banging between us.
I feel horrible when I hear the word test because there are too many tests at my school. I don't like it.
I think testing is important so you can find out where the student is at so you know where to teach, but when you're testing and testing and testing, it gives you less time to teach.
I would be testing, and then she'd say, you only have 5 minutes left, and I'd be trying to rush my test, and then I end up doing a bad job on it. Like, I'm upset because now I don't have enough time to do my test, and then I can't do it anymore, and then I'll get a bad grade on it.
I don't like tests because they put a lot of stress on me.
They get sick of testing, I feel. I think you have to prepare your students and let them know you're going to be tested a lot, and here's why. I tell my students that they're going to be tested, and it's more for my information so that I know if they understood what I taught or if they need extra help.
It made me feel like when I'm going to grow up, I'm going to be dumb and stupid.
And just like make a bunch of stories and
My, what big eyes you have.
my, what a big mouth you have. These are sunny side lemons. They make your lemonade nice and sour. And this is my pet dog, Crystal. She is wearing my jacket. See, I named her Crystal because that little crystal right there. She is a good dog. She wouldn't, I felt like she wouldn't like to, oh my god, there's a, I'm dying!